Hello and welcome. I'm Omar Sallam and this is the Product.Live. Today we have a very special guest. Marty Cagan says about him that he is the most interesting product person that he has ever worked with. I don't want to waste time in long introductions about the topics and everything, but I really want to welcome Christian Idiodi, partner in Silicon Valley Product Group with us. Hello, Christian, and thank you so much for making the time to be here.
Thank you, Omar. Pleasure to be here. Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, my friend. So I didn't want to waste time for me talking. I want to get the most out of it from you. So please, would you introduce yourself to the people that don't know you yet? And can you give us also a glimpse about your background, your career story, and how you progressed to where you at right now?
Well, I am one of the partners at the Silicon Valley Product Group. And if you're not familiar with our work, we spend a lot of our time really trying to understand how the best companies build products, how the best companies solve problems, how the best companies work together to innovate consistently. And what we do is really try to share those techniques, the culture, the mindset, the ways of working with other companies with the hope that we can convince them that they can work in a similar manner or even better. Uh, we are the authors of the books Inspired, Empowered, and Loved, and also the new book coming out, Transformed, really talking about how companies move to what we are calling this product operating model or the product model. I in terms of my career, I have spent a lot of my career building products. I did not start my journey that way. I was actually going to be a medical doctor and decided to take some time off to travel the world and got stuck broke as a young kid and had to start my professional career in sales, doing door-to-door sales for a while. I got super successful designing a patent for how to sell quickly, and then I ended up winning an innovation competition that kind of derailed my career into the product world. And so I actually started my first product or built my first company as an entrepreneur at about 22 years old. And ended up building about 80 products with that company, did a startup kind of in a similar HR technology space. And taught product innovation for a while before leading a major transformation of an enterprise financial services company into a modern day SaaS company. And I did that for about 3 years before I joined the Silicon Valley Product Group. So, kind of in my career, I have been a product manager in that sense, building products, kind of probably in a poorly defined way early in my career, and then a manager of product people and a leader of product teams and a VP or a head of product, as well as a product executive leading a major transformation of a company into the product operating model.
That's like an amazing journey, and the reason why I wanted to ask you about this to give us, how you developed and so on is um, well, when we got introduced to each other before recording this episode, I told you that I'm originally from Egypt, and I knew that you're originally from Nigeria. We're African brothers, and a lot of people, a big chunk of our audience actually is from the Middle East, North Africa, and Western Africa, and I think it's really important to portray the success stories of people that have. have developed successfully and had that impact in their careers and so on. It's amazing the kind of progression that you did in your career. I think it's really inspirational. And like before moving to the next point, like looking back, 20 years, if you could say something to young Christian that is, still trying to figure out his way in Nigeria and trying to look out for the future, worried about what would happen and everything. And I think this is especially important from people that had actually made a lot of progress in their careers. Especially in product management. Like I'm personally looking at you at my African homeboy that did it in the big leagues. So I really personally even want to learn from your experience and what
Yeah.
would you say?
Well, I don't know of anyone in our discipline today, at least anyone that is good, that got into product management by going to get educated in the firm, and had a practice or an internship in product management, or and became a product manager by going to school for it. And I've often said that the great product managers I have met or come across in my career have either come from two places. One, they learned from great product leaders, people that have done product well or worked at great product companies or seen great product work done, or through a series of massive failure and through a series of trying and experimenting and hardships and going through the ringer in some ways. I kind of had a little hybrid of both, kind of being coached in my career by some good product leaders, but mostly by failing. A lot of failure. I had even a streak at one point in my career of 17 failed product launches, like just go all the way. And it
You
was such.
actually counted them. Okay.
Oh, I mean, you're kind of thinking, we're doing
Yeah.
a light bulb and we're going to go 100 in some ways. And I said, wow, he didn't learn anything at like 12 or 10 in some ways. And I mean,
Yeah.
and the difference is I was not building light bulbs. I was building real
Yeah.
technology with engineers going from uh, months of work and what I would consider research back then. And like, why is no one buying this? Why is no one using this? Why is it not matching the business case that I went and I wrote an elaborate business plan for this, and it's not what's happening in the real world. And every time you go through failure, you tweak it, you learn, you kind of iterate on it. And I think the most humbling part in my career is trying to differentiate kind of what was luck. Like, was I just lucky in the beginning with my products? Is that how I stumbled upon this? Or is there really a way to consistently and constantly innovate? Go from idea to value, idea to revenue consistently. And the biggest understanding for me was realizing that I knew what I didn't know. And, by one of the biggest indications of my success early on was when I realized that a lot of my success in the beginning came from kind of not knowing, came from this intellectual curiosity, came from this hunger to try to get some insights to understand the customer, the business, the market, the people I was trying to serve, rather than making assumptions or making decisions from a conference room. And I think when I went back to my roots of getting out of the building and speaking with people and trying to test and iterate and validate the things that I did, it really started to change the outcomes I had. And I stress this out because many people kind of look at a successful product career as only the ones that uh, end up with a ton of product success, in that, oh, you worked at one of those Apple or Google companies that are already successful. But many people don't see the graveyard of failed experiments, failed products or tests that often lead to great products. And so I always try to encourage anybody in their career that in this discipline, it's like you've got to build a muscle. And the muscle is of taking an idea, validating an idea, testing an idea, experimenting, talking to people. And you don't need to be a product manager by title. You don't need to work at a big company or stuff to do any of these things. You can start to talk to people today, to learn how to talk to people. We call them customers in our industry. You can start today to experiment on little things, to validate and test little things. If you have an idea, to work in communities of people, to do those things. And I did not realize how my upbringing, my experience I went to boarding school in Africa, all of those things helped in my product world. I had built muscle over time, a muscle of understanding what works or what didn't, of talking to people comfortably, of validating and testing, of experimentation, of collaboration, of working with people. So when I highlight these things in people's careers, I want to encourage people that you can start to practice the things you need in this
Yeah.
discipline. All right. And you don't, no matter your degree, no matter your background, no matter your things, if you get good at working with people, get good at solving problems, get good at interaction, get good at measuring success, these are some of those muscles you will need to do this work.
Yeah. a part of the beauty of product management that I really love and passionate about is that it's based on life skills. It's a life science slash art. That, as you said, it cannot be just taught theoretically. There is a theoretical part, but it's based on your life experiences and how you can evolve them. And what I picked, the most part that I really picked from what you said, and it relates to my next topic, which is embracing your failures and always looking at them as a learning opportunity and a learning experience. And that's the way that you reach the best product that you could build, whether in the same product, iteratively, or in other product spaces that you move to due to your learning experience. Which takes me, and I think this is one essential and fundamental part of the essence of product management. And I know that you gave this talk many times. You did a lot of episodes with different podcasts lately with Lenia Raczewski, that is titled The Essence of Product Management. And this title just, inspires me, and like it catches my heart, to be honest. Like, to put it in very simple, straightforward words, for you, what is the essence of product management?
Yeah. I've kind of always, I wanted people to really get back to the heart and soul of what we do.
Yes.
And I often try to talk about the history of product in a very different way than many people will look at, titles and roles. But I've kind of said, the very core of it is solving a problem.
Yeah.
There are many names people have called people that solve problems over time, whether they're innovators, inventors, entrepreneurs, creatives. I mean, there are all these nice names of people that run around solving. We see it
Yeah.
every single day in our world, just problem solvers, people that are given a problem to solve with a very set outcome of what solving that problem means. It's how every major invention in the world was created, every major thing we come to enjoy, it starts and originates from a problem someone had that was solved, and the measure of success is that we all use it today. We all share it, we all buy it.
Yeah.
Everything you kind of buy or spend money on. And I think once it becomes institutionalized, people lose that essence.
Yeah.
Oh, my job is to write requirements, tell somebody what to do, communicate with this, make stakeholders happy. We have all these fancy words for all of these kinds of things. I say, well, let's hold up here. All of
Yeah.
that is a mute
Yeah.
point, whether it's institutionalized or in a different way, if we don't solve the problem.
Mhm.
So the true essence of product is, one, we've got to solve a problem. But what differentiates this discipline from just generalized solving problems, creative kind of stuff, is you've got to do it so well that whoever you're solving that problem for, we call them customers in our industry,
Yeah.
give you something back in
Yeah.
return. That's, we call it in a way that customers love. And
Yeah.
we want to create that bar so high because in today's world, value is also choice. You see, we are not in a, we need clothes and you're the first person to invent clothes. There are like lots of options for what clothes you pick. So the idea of love is that we choose you. The
Yeah.
idea of love is that we buy you. The idea of love is that we tell somebody about, I love this shirt,
Yeah.
right? And that is not enough for this essence to be captured. It's not enough that you solve a problem, and it's not enough that you do it that somebody that people love in a way that people love, but it also has to work for your
Yeah.
business. You see,
Mm.
people often tell me like, oh, like I'm working so hard to make sure customers love it. I say, look, I actually realized at some point in my career, it's not actually hard to make people love stuff. You can market your way into love. You could give people false promises and they will think they love it. You can sell them the idea of of course you love this shirt. However, the balancing act of doing it in a way that also works for your business, that is legal, that is compliant, that you can build, that you can afford, that you can sell, that you can market, that your stakeholders will support. That's the magic of this discipline. Solve a problem in a way people will love and in a way that also works for your business. The
Yeah.
true essence is being able to do that so well that you get something in return.
That's a golden statement, actually. Like I've never heard anyone but you put it in that way, and it's a really unique definition of the true essence of product management. Again, relates to the part why it's a life science or an art, because the word essence could only be used for something that is so deep and so
Yes.
fundamental, and like it relates to human nature and so on. So it's a beautiful field of work. And I relate also, like when we are trying to looking at the bigger picture for anything, whether it's product or how to do it and so on, and always try to look at the essence of everything. There is something that was mentioned and inspired. Marty Cagan always talks about it, and he's quoting Steve Jobs. And I'm actually almost mentioning this in every episode that I record with every guest. That when Steve Jobs once said, "Don't trust process people. Process people will kill your business," and that's really hitting the looking for the essence string, right? Because if you forget the essence of why we have a process in place and you just
Mm,
start
mm,
obsessing on applying the process itself, you will lose the value that you're trying to reach behind it. Like, some companies, whether they're corps or startups or at any size, sometimes they get too obsessed with the word agile methodology and applying it and being agile, that they actually end up being not agile at all. Like, they lose all flexibility, they lose all tendency to change and to move towards chasing a business value and building something that the customer actually really loves, which would lead me to the next question that I have for you here. Uh, what are the biggest misconceptions that you have seen in your experience related to discovery or how to do it, design, and ownership? Because these are really three things that I personally believe there is a lot of misconception around them on how they are defined, how they should be done and applied.
yeah, that is a great question. A great question, and very insightful on process
Yeah,
and how it often steals from the essence. And
yeah,
we have to understand the reason companies do it is this: often because of this idea of scale, and often because they actually move from an innovative problem solving stance to a defensive stance. You hardly see most startups obsess about process. It's
yeah.
because they kind of have nothing to defend. They've got to solve a problem well
Total
enough.
chaos.
You see what I mean? It's but
Yeah,
often when you've solved the problem and you're starting to get something back, people are paying you money, your business is growing. Often leaders are focused on two things: one, defending that position. You start to hear things like churn, or you start to hear things like retention. We don't want to lose the people we have, and then you start to get these drivers for growth.
yeah,
These two variables start to pull at just the singular. I need to solve the problem in the beginning and do it well enough to know that we can actually survive and get product market fit. So we have to balance this out. And so people's like, we have to scale this.
yeah,
And rather than focus, because if you realize what got them to that success was not any process. It wasn't like, oh, we used this one framework or methodology or this one thing that got them. It was actually people that worked together to solve the
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
It was the designers and engineers. They were testing, they were experimenting, they got something out there, they iterated on it. Um, and so you kind of hear this narrative of like, well, what did we do? So this is what we did. And it's like, let us write a book around that so that everybody does that.
yeah,
But what you actually need, it is let's create more people like that to solve more problems. Because you've gone from one singular problem, product market fit, to multiple problems now. which is I got to retain people. I have to grow the business. So, I'm calling this out because I want people to kind of understand some of the organic patterns that drive people into an obsession with process, and how that hurts the discipline. I often say to people all the time, uh, companies cannot care about people. Companies don't care about people, whether that's customers or even their internal employees. People care about people. You see,
Yeah.
and it's just a company is not just cannot carry an essence of care. you
Yeah.
know and so you will lose the essence if you start to look at it as an institutional type of thing. Here's our company, we have customers, we own this is what we do. But if you think about it, it is made up of people. And if you lose sight of what it does to scale with people, then you focus on what it means to scale with process and methodologies and frameworks and all of these books and stuff, and those things don't actually yield you success.
Yeah.
So one big problem is scaling with process versus scaling with people.
Mhm.
Uh, a second piece, in terms of misconceptions around discovery, and the work of things, is people lose sight that this is a team sport,
Yeah.
not an individual sport.
Yeah.
Even some of the better companies try to bring individuals together and think they've created a team sport, or a team, by just bringing people together. See, the difference between a group of people and a team of people is that they have a common goal.
Yeah.
So if you're like, well, I have design people, engineer people, I have, marketing, sales kind of people, but they all have different goals, then they are not on the same team.
Mhm.
So it's one of the biggest misconceptions is that just by having titles and roles and all of the things you need, that you're now playing a team sport.
Yeah.
So if and I see this pattern very constantly. What are the design goals? Make everything look good. What are the engineer goals? Make everything run faster. Then what are the product goals? Go increase revenue. And you're
Yeah.
like, why are we not working together? We have too many meetings. We cannot get along. We're not this making. I'm like, you have three different teams working on three different goals. There's
Yeah.
just no
Exactly.
incentive. You see, it's kind of what you need is if you play football or soccer or it's like we all are on the team to win the game.
Yeah.
We might have different roles. I'm the goalkeeper. You're the defender. But we pass the ball. We don't say, should I pass the ball? Is he on my team? Would he score? We
Yeah.
don't, because it's this idea that the goal is bigger than our
Yeah.
individual roles. People move fluidly. It's okay for a defender to go score. It's okay for an attacker to come defend sometimes. I mean, there's no like, this is my space. This is my rule.
Yeah.
You see? And we get that a lot in our discovery work. We believe that by having all these titles and names, we've solved the problem. And he's like, why is sales not getting along with product people? I said, well, their job is to sell. Your job is to build product. I mean, we don't have any incentive to be in the same room. The best companies have the same goals. It doesn't matter your role. As long as you're in the value creation aspect of the company, product design, engineering, data, you are solving, your participants in solving the problem. The goal is the outcome, right? So
Exactly.
big misconception. There are many anti-patterns we can talk about with discovery. Many leaders think a good idea is all the work. In some ways, like, go build it. I've solved the problem by just having an idea for a solution. And they fail to realize what goes from an idea to actually solving a solution that people will use, people can use, we can build, and actually works for us. Lots of things happen between that. And so solving a problem, boy, I call this out because I've started to see this new pattern of people spending time on like, okay, we agree that, leaders should not have all the great ideas. Let us spend a lot of time understanding the problem, and they're spending 90% of their time talking about the problem. And I'm like, I get it. I like that. That is good mental model in your head. I need
Yeah.
to understand the problem. But we don't get any reward in our discipline for being problem experts.
Yeah.
Our entirety of our job is to solve it. And to
Exactly.
solve it, we need to understand it, the problem. But there's no reward. So you have this kind of misconception of like, if we just talked about the problem every day, magically it will solve itself.
Solution is gonna pop out.
Right? So there's an actual discipline
Yeah.
of discovering a solution that, people also fail to understand. Yeah.
Again, a very brilliant take on this. I think also some of the misconceptions they extend to defining the roles on like what actually everyone should be doing and what's the extent of how to collaborate together. So as you said, like some company could hire all the titles in the world and they're trying to put people together, but they don't really understand how they should work together to form this team and how they support each other and do all of that. Like one of my favorite misconceptions is what is the definition of the product design role, for example.
Mm,
And like that, most people they think about it as the graphic designer role that has to make something look pretty, right?
yeah.
Not fully analyzing the end-to-end experience of the user and trying to identify how to elevate the experience and design the experience. And then at some points of the experience it has a front end that needs to be designed in accordance to that. So that's one of the misconceptions. And I think like because product management, product design, product marketing, product ops, all of that, the one of the big misconceptions is that they each of them own a separate part of how to develop a product, while in my own personal opinion it's an ongoing collaboration. They're supporting each other and it's all complement all of these different efforts on different fronts. They are complementing the same objective and the same strategy that they're trying to execute together. And that also should be extending to sales and marketing and operations and so on. um, like that's something that I really also believe in, that the product vision, it's not something that is only affects the product teams, different product teams and functionalities, but if the nature of the product says that they have to collaborate with operations or sales or so on, then also these different fundamentally different functions should also be trying to optimize towards the same goal or objective.
Yeah. Yeah. It, I mean, you start to talk about team topology and team makeup. Um, a lot of it is actually driven by an absence of vision or
Hmm.
poor vision
Yeah.
completely. I mean, if you think about it, if I don't know what sport I'm going to play, how do I know what skills I need to play the game? How do
Yeah.
I know what competence or good looks like? Many companies start believing they are playing basketball and end up playing hockey, or they believe they are playing. Uh, they often find close enough patterns. I'm playing football, and one is called soccer or the other is called football, but it's kind of the same thing. There are 11 people on the team. I got 11 here. It looks like it could work. We're just going to move it that way, and then they make changes midstream. Oh yeah, but I think volleyball sounds good. Let's try volleyball. And so we often see, first of all, a big driver for the kind of team you need or have is driven by your vision.
Yeah.
It also affects what people might call like all these tech debt architectural decisions. If I don't know what I'm building, then
Hmm.
what the future could look like, then I might not have a good enough foundation. I may not have a good enough infrastructure to support it. So vision is absolutely critical. First you're kind of saying we are going to be, world champions of basketball.
Yeah.
If I said that to you and I said we're going to play basketball, you're thinking, okay, the team has 5 people. I might need some reserves, but boy, maybe we need some tall people. That might be something that might work. They need to be able to shoot the ball, run around. I mean, you're kind of getting a sense just by me telling you what kind of sport. So you even know there's a difference between what you would need to play the game,
Hmm.
which is different from what you would need to win the game.
Yes,
You
exactly.
see? So you kind
Yeah.
of have a sense, okay, can we play basketball? You can be like, anybody can play basketball. Like, let's bring, but we need 5. That's the rules, 5 on the cards and stuff like that. You might have different rules. Somebody's a center, a point guard, and stuff. You see, you're getting a mental picture. Now, if I said, what do we need to win at basketball?
Yeah.
You see, you're thinking, oh, we need a strategy, like a plan. We need to call out
Mm,
plays. Okay, how do we, who's going to shoot? You see, you now have some definition in your head of the roles and plays. So we need defense and offense. But you
mhm.
actually need just things come from like a coach. Somebody has to coach the team to work together,
Yeah.
to play together. So the vision kind of tells me a little of what sport you're playing, tells us what winning looks like, kind of is you want to win the championship,
Mhm.
but you're bringing individuals together, same goal. Now you have a team. Now you have to coach them. And what that coach is providing, not just the vision, they are coaching you on this is what it takes to win the game. They're providing the
Mhm.
strategy, the playbooks. Then they are doing the day to day coaching, helping people collaborate, work better together, test and iterate on what they are trying things out before
Yeah.
they go play any game. That's
Yeah.
how you win. So I always say, playing a game is different than winning a game. Boy, I've
Mhm.
got kids. They play all kinds of games, play all kinds of sports. Doesn't mean, they try things out. Doesn't mean they're automatically good at it or they are, or they win every time. So
Mhm.
trying to win requires a different type of thinking. And we lose sight of that because we think once we are playing the game, we are set up to win. That's very different. To be set
Yeah.
up to win, you need context, you need the right environment, and you need coaching. I don't
Yeah.
know any other way in the world to win at anything.
Yeah.
Context
Then.
is why are we here? Where are we going? What do we need to succeed? Do we have the right players? Do we have the right plan? Do we have the strategy? That's all context. Environment is like culture, how do we work well, our respect for each other, the norms, the values, the behaviors, the things we share. And somebody needs to practice with us before this is a not so secret formula to winning at anything in life. I don't know how
Exactly.
any team sport in the world that you
Yeah. Yeah.
find successful without those things.
Of course. Of course. It's pretty simple, basic, fundamental, and straightforward. There's no way around it. Like, I don't understand why it's so hard. Yeah.
We,
Okay, cool. That's great. So, let me take you to another side of these questions, and let's both go back to the homeland, and not just about Africa, but I want to ask you about, again, from your experience, uh, how do you see, if there is even a contrast between a contrast in applying and working and building products and applying product management between developed markets and developing markets? So here we're talking Africa, we're talking some places in South America, APAC, and so on.
yeah.
Especially like that some of the problems might be different if we, for example, take logistic fulfillment as a space. It operates in a totally different way between Europe and America, Canada, and in Africa and South America. There's a whole different set of problems and challenges that people are trying to deal with and so on. So like trying to build products that does that. Definitely there has to be some contrast in trying to do this. Or you, from your experience, you have actually validated there is no contrast. Like, I'm really interested to know what you think about this.
Uh, uh, I am unfortunately validated that there is a lot of contrast.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about it.
Like in every market, I think I did a lot of discovery myself, trying to learn about what the ecosystem of problem solvers in Africa, entrepreneurs, investors. So I did some discovery. I kind of took a tour last year. I'm doing another one in a couple of months, going to several parts of Africa and meeting with people, going out in the field and doing discovery. And I just spent some time last quarter in South America, in Colombia, in Brazil, in Argentina. Um,
Amazing.
and there is a range in some ways of what's going on here. The first, I think, is the role of government, uh, or the kind of the public sector role that we often minimize in most developed nations. I see the government as the largest public platform product agency in the world, meaning
Yeah.
they provide the very basic infrastructure and platform that enables innovation in a society. You know, meaning I don't know of a developer in America that says, "Oh, I need to work on code or build something." Is there going to be power?
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
or like I need to go to the office. Like, is there going to be a road? Or
Yeah.
is there going to be any means of connecting me logistically between here and there, like whether it's
Yeah.
rail or stuff like that, or we are working on building a new app. Are we safe? Is there
Yeah.
war, turbulence? I mean, are you seeing all of these in terms of just the hierarchy of
best
needs of?
best yeah, best case scenario, you get a schedule for the power cutoffs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
geographic. I mean, but you're seeing all of those little things
Yeah.
uh, that we take for granted. So solving a problem in developing countries or spaces means that you have to solve many problems if you want to do it well. You have
Yeah.
to be willing to play some of the roles in infrastructure and platform work that have typically or evolved well in the public sector in other developed nations. You have to be like, oh, we need to probably get a portable generator to power this building. Oh, we logistically to ship things from here to here, I have to build a logistics network. Oh, it's just not an easy way to accept payments. I mean, just imagine, we're like, oh, we're gonna just put it in the app store, put it in this, people will pay in the other country. You're not thinking, you're like, oh, people don't have credit cards. My customers don't. They only use cash. How do I collect that?
Yeah.
I mean, look at all of those things. Because you can say, I have found a solution. So good, people are gonna love it. But the viability of it, in developing countries, is a
Yeah.
different ballgame.
Yeah.
Understandably, many people are like, well, but some of these developed nations, because of the poor public sector, there are not lots of restricting laws and compliance issues. I'm like that, because that's higher in developed countries, you see, because it's regulated industries. You cannot just, I'm going to build a bank today. I mean, the number of neo banks alone in Africa, like, we're talking almost thousands coming up of different. So nobody can do that in like Europe or America. Let's just start a bank today. Like, so many restrictions, so many regulations, so many things that gets into it. So you might say, well, that's different, but your viability risk are now in a different category. Kind of more developed you are, the more high order risk you have to tackle.
Mm.
Legal risk, compliance risk, continuity risk, competitive landscape risk, regulatory things that may affect you, ethical things in there, because these societies have infrastructure to ensure that consumers are protected and the best product go out to them. In less developed countries, maybe like, well, nobody really will audit us. There's no regulation in this space for it. What does that do? It drives creativity in some ways. It may feel like it's driving innovation, but it doesn't actually aid in solving the problem. So, but you
Yeah.
do have some fundamental viability risk with things like security, accommodation, feeding, logistics, transportation. These are real fundamental things. So, what
Yeah.
I see happen in many developing countries is that people try to walk around the problem,
Yeah.
or more people spend time making money on a problem than solving the problem.
Yeah.
You see, because it's big. Because nobody's going to be like, well, we don't have power. You're like, who's going to work on providing power for everybody? I'm just going to provide power for myself. I'm just going to
Mm.
pick and I'm done. Or, it's like the roads don't work. What are we going to do? Like, should we fix the road? No, let's buy a bigger car so that we can just drive around the bad road. Are you see where I'm going with this? These are
Yeah.
concepts.
Yeah.
This is we are creative, but we cannot be innovative because we don't know how to do it at scale for everybody. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
because
it's more optimized towards survival. Like,
right.
yeah,
Survival. You see, I
yeah,
mean, you see traffic. We're not thinking like we should fix the traffic problem. Like,
yeah,
who has a motorcycle or a bicycle? Let's weave our way through it to get to our destination. You know,
yeah, yeah,
I love that framing. It's kind of this survival. We are so wired for survival and not wired for innovation.
yeah,
You see,
yeah. Exactly,
it's kind
exactly.
of, and so that is a fundamental difference, and that also affects the ecosystem because many people judge developing countries with the same measures as they will do developed countries.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
oh, I have the same metrics. This is what works for. I'm a VC in California. We expect a return in 3 years. We expect this, and these are the measures of success, and your growth trajectory, and then in developed countries, you're like, yeah, I have a pineapple business to ship pineapples next door. I have to build the road, the payment network, the
Yeah.
security and stuff to do. Like this is a 10-year type of thing before the
Yes.
pineapple could get to value. It's not you
Yeah.
see, it's not like I didn't solve the problem, but getting or capturing the value is an expensive
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Exactly. Yeah. You know still in every like shitty situation, let's call it like this, there is still an opportunity somehow. So,
yes.
um, one of the biggest companies that I was working for, it's a marketplace that is targeting Africa. So like it's Africa's Amazon. That's how they leadership like to put it. And um, we had something. We had an informal quote inside that if surprisingly, because we're speaking now, if you solve or win the markets of Egypt and Nigeria, you'll be able to dominate the rest of Africa because those are the most challenging markets out there, most two challenging markets with most complicated problems and so on. But this concept also could be scaled somehow because surprisingly, Egypt and Nigeria and also Kenya are the three highest African countries in VC funding and in VC investing. I'm sure that you know this. I'm not sure. Maybe there's another country on the top list, but I'm sure about Egypt and Nigeria, which gives you an insight about the massive opportunities, spaces, and landscapes over there. And I think that, as you said, if a VC goes in, or even a business that is trying to scale in African countries and enter these markets, and they think about, okay, let's take everything that we applied in developed countries, apply it here, it wouldn't work. But the opportunity here is that if you reverse this mindset and you say, okay, let's try to apply the business in the most challenging market we can find. And then if we're able to solve all of this, scaling and expanding, entering new markets, much easier, much regulated markets would be just like a piece of cake.
Mm.
And I think that's a massive opportunity that actually markets and continents like Africa or APAC or South America that actually could present to the rest of the world that, okay, this is a playground for the most challenging problems you could ever find. Build something here, invest in it, and then scaling, globally would be much, much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a beauty, we kind of say necessity is the mother of invention in some ways.
Yeah,
Um, there is a beauty to our survival mentality and the mental models that have come out of that. There is a beauty to the creativity that comes out of solving problems in very, very difficult situations.
yeah,
What we have that many parts do not have in the world is we have a tremendous amount of immersion in problems. Most people are like, you're immersed in a problem, and you also have a tremendous amount of people that want a solution. You have a tremendous amount of demand for value. And you have a tremendous amount of participants that are willing. You know, Today, if I came to you and I said, you want to test out my new phone, you're like, oh, well, I mean, we've got Samsung and Apple and so, I mean, like, new phone. Like, you have all this skepticism. I don't have time for that kind of stuff. Sure, try it out. You're like, you're not grossly unhappy. But, there are still so many parts with a large population like Egypt and Nigeria where, you're like, you've never used a phone before, or your portable phone with working cellular. You're like, I'm interested, I'm curious. So you're going to get a lot of testing and validation and
Yeah.
participation in it. But you call out a very important point with being able to uh, uh, take that learning into how we solve problems somewhere else. It hurts me. One of the examples I use kind of in Discovery in Africa is this healthcare company in South Africa that I was mentoring, and they've been trying to provide healthcare accessibility to rural villages. And they can put this little telehealth type of system, very low cost telehealth system, and you can talk to a doctor, and kind of that local small market will have a dispensary that can give you life-saving medication by seeing a doctor virtually. And very promising. I love kind of and they went out to solve the problem, had some great validation around it, and then VC jumps in and gives the money. It's like, this is great to scale it. And he's like, now we want to do what? We've got to grow. Now we've got to grow. We've solved the problem, but not only do we want to grow, we want revenue. We want all money got to come in now that we have technology and solution. And and I'm talking to the founder, the CEO, and he's like, well, we're going to expand the business. I said, okay, and we're planning to go to Germany. I said, Germany. I mean, this is the solution.
Okay.
We've got real problems. So, well, we had a lead for a good company there to partner, but we also realized that the people with the willingness to pay,
Ah,
high net worth individuals, these
yeah.
richer people and communities. The villages were great. If we get maybe a grant, somebody give us some money to put something in the village, we can put. But I mean that nobody could afford the fees and the stuff. This is the price point we need to get a return, and it's like, now we have some key customers in Germany that think that this will work well, and we're good. And I said, boy,
Yeah.
what drove that thinking, right? Is it because now the VC did a return in 3 to 5 years? You want growth, you want revenue, so you've now lost sight of the original problem you wanted to solve,
Yeah.
which is
Exactly.
to provide accessible health services to rural populations and places. Because and don't get me wrong, like, everybody will love telehealth, and but I can get it. I see why it makes sense, because now people want the hockey stick growth. Like, I want to see, you had 10, and I want money to look like this, and you're going to chase it. So, we have to stay focused on solving the problem and the rewards that come from actually doing good work, than focused on the return that we might get from solving the problem that meets the needs of an investor. And so people have to invest differently in Africa. We have to get patient capital. People have to be patient with their investments in Africa. And people have to be supportive of really the ecosystem and the challenges in getting results.
Yeah. Adding to that example that you said, I was privileged to work with one of the best startups that got, right now, I think it's the second highest VC funding in Egypt. But at some point, it was the highest. It's called Maxab, and the company does supply chain.
Mm.
It's a supply chain product for groceries, and a part of the vision. Of course, when I was there, it was an early startup phase. It had all the chaos, as you mentioned, but two things that I really loved, that the actually the vision statement, until now, it didn't change, and it guided a lot of the activities, and a part of it was serving the or fulfilling for the most underserved parts of Egypt. And that scaled as the company was growing. So it guided all of our activities. It guided our discovery, because we were actually doing discovery on the streets and the deepest underserved parts of any place that we operated with. And after that, the company scaled, and their choice of countries to collaborate with or scale with, they started with scaling to Morocco. They just announced a partnership with another brand in Kenya, for example. We had other competitors. Of course, they were in other markets trying to apply the same model in other markets, in Pakistan, in India, in Kenya, again, in South Africa. And we were having a lot of collaborations and sharing experiences and so on, though we're trying to apply for the same model, so theoretically competitors, but in different markets. So we're not directly competing, and there was a lot of knowledge sharing there. And I think that was because of a very, very good vision definition that guided all of these activities and gave us the fuel for that. It's and they're growing massively right now. It's a
I
really
love
impressive story
I love that.
for that company. Being very wary of time, just one last question that I wanted to ask you that could be actually a separate episode. Um, I'm really excited about the anticipated publishing of the newest book, Transformed. So I just wanted to tap into it a little bit. Can you give us an insight about how does that book and how it would help in trying to transform into a more product-led way of managing an organization and building an organization?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I tried to describe like we've spent a lot of our time curating the techniques, the ways of working, the culture and mindset of how the best companies work, and we've kind of called that the product model, the product operating model. It's a shift from what some people might say this is a top-down way of working to an empowered way of working. It's a shift from a project mindset to a product mindset, meaning we're funding projects versus funding people to solve problems. It's a shift from future teams or delivery teams, or armies of mercenaries that build things to a group of people that work together to solve problems in a meaningful way. So we've kind of called this way of working companies that work in the product operating model and the product model. And the real essence of this book is to help people understand what it means to work that way, right? And it means a change in three dimensions. You're changing how you build things, you're changing how you solve problems, and you're also changing how you decide which problems to solve. And in that shift, you're also, I kind of talked about, you're playing a different sport now. So there are new competencies you need. It's like, what is a product manager? Not just by title, but what it really is. What's a designer? What's an engineer? And what is product leadership in all of this? And and you talk about those competencies and roles, but you also have to talk about the culture, the things like the concepts of delivery and discovery, right? You have to talk about all of the environments and the things you need to be able to enable an organization to succeed that way. So what's really different for us in this book is we wanted to share first-hand stories. There are a lot of stories of companies that have failed
Yeah.
in trying to transform. A lot.
Embracing failure again, as we spoke at the beginning, like you have to embrace it and learn from it.
And many people kind of say, well, we were not born native tech like Google or Amazon. Like we are an old legacy company.
Yeah,
And now we want to work. How do we move to work in this model from this legacy way of working to this? And so we share first-hand stories, of companies that have actually done this and what went behind the scenes to making it work, with the hope that we can kind of encourage people like, look, this is a old legacy printing company, and now look at them, they're a modern tech company. This is a old journalist media company, and look at them today, they're a real technology company. And so you're going to hear stories and examples of not just what it means to transform, how companies have transformed into this way of working, the concepts, the dimensions, the principles that have guided them in that journey, and really, in some ways, a way to assess where you are in your transformation and what's the gaps you need to tackle to get there. So I'm really excited about the book coming out in March. I think it would be such a gift to the community, which I've always hoped
sure, it's gonna
our
be that.
books are, in
Of
giving
course.
back our sharing to everybody.
I'm also really excited about it. I'm really excited about reading it, and in my actual kind of line of work right now. Like I really need this book right now as we speak. So I'm really anticipating it. I need to know a way to get those T-shirts that you guys are wearing. So I hope that there's like some T-shirts going on with the books. But yeah, it's really important context and how you guys put some context into applying everything that you've been evangelizing in the previous books. And I think that actually is something that I always thought about. Like sometimes inspired felt like too good to be true. sometimes empowered felt too good to be true. And what I'm expecting in Transformed is how to have more real life examples and techniques or whatever way to actually apply this in different setups and different ways of working. I really appreciate the time that you gave in here. I hope that I'm able to, get some more time from you in the future to have more discussions about other topics, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So, Christian, thank you so much again for being here. For our viewers, I hope that you enjoyed this very special episode with our very special guest. Please subscribe to YouTube and follow the Product.Live on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Spotify. Leave us a comment or any comments or suggestions, and we'll see you with the next episode. Stay tuned
Thank
to
you.
the Product.Live.
Have a wonderful one. Thank you.